Today, I wanted to make this quick video basically just talking about different ways that mental health has impacted my life. And I know you always hear about the symptoms like loss of appetite, loss of interest in things that you like doing, I don't know, different things like that. You always hear about different symptoms of depression or anxiety. And today I just want to talk about some of the symptoms that I personally deal with for a couple of different reasons. It helps me organize my thoughts. But the other reason I wanted to share this is because I want other people to know that if you deal with some of these things that seem kind of weird or feel kind of weird, then you're not alone. And you probably have some of these weird different things that you maybe deal with, or maybe you don't, which is probably good, and that's for the better. So I didn't want to have like too long of an intro for this one. I want to just jump right into it. The very first one I wanted to chat about, that is having trouble getting my day started. So for example, this morning I woke up, I set an alarm for 6:45. I was planning on hitting snooze a couple times. By 7 o'clock I'd get out of bed. I was gonna meet up with a buddy of mine so that we could start filming a video outside, but due to some scheduling issues and due to the weather being absolutely horrible today, it's raining quite a bit, I ended up having to deal with basically filming this video alone and also filming it inside. At 7 o'clock, I texted my buddy. At around 8 o'clock, I realized that we're probably not going to be meeting up today. He had some prior commitments that he forgot about. But that being said, it's 11:49 right now as I'm recording this video, and it took me that much time to pretty much be prepared to record myself and talk about some of these issues. What did I fill my time with? Some of the things I felt like were necessary before I started, kind of procrastinating making this video by taking a long shower, brushing my teeth twice because I had to drink coffee and then I felt like my teeth weren't fresh enough yet. Making sure my dog and cat are fed, which are obviously important. So just kind of procrastinating getting my day started. That's something that I really struggle with, to be honest with you, and it's something I'm trying to change. So if you have any cool ideas on how you get your day started a lot more, I guess, effectively and proactively, if you have any tips for that, I need them. Another thing that I deal with, I think this one's a lot more common, but basically just not wanting to be alone. I realized this a lot in my teenage years, but I just didn't really want to be alone, especially when I was upset or dealing with something, coming home from work or coming home from school. I would try and set up hanging out with a friend, even relying on best friends or girlfriends. I just really didn't want to be alone with my own thoughts. These thoughts kind of eat away at the back of your head, and if you can just distract yourself with other people around you or maybe even their problems, and then it's going to be a nice little break from having to deal with the negativity that you might have going on in your head. And obviously that can be a nice thing because you don't want to be having negative thoughts or feeling negative all the time. You're having negative thoughts is probably for a reason. There might be something that you need to do that you're not doing, or vice versa. Maybe it's something that you do very often and you shouldn't really be doing it, and that's why you kind of have these negative thoughts eating away at you. It's good to spend time with other people. It's good to talk to them about your problems, but it's also good to spend a little bit of alone time and spend that time to reflect on maybe why you have these negative thoughts in the first place. I'm not saying that you have to segregate yourself or isolate yourself. I'm just saying that spending a little bit of alone time is a good thing. It's good to kind of have that reflection, even if it is negative thoughts sometimes. At least that allows you to reflect on why you might be feeling negative in the first place. Another thing I kind of struggle with is trouble getting into bed at night. And so I get into bed and I feel very tired, but my mind's racing. And sometimes it's negative thoughts. Sometimes it's just things that I have to do the next day. Sometimes it's things that I'm thinking about, conversations during the day that I just had, like maybe I shouldn't have said that, or I could have worded this differently, or my reaction in this situation wasn't what I wanted, and my mind just races before bed. It's something called rumination. And having these repeating negative thoughts is not a good thing. That being said, you don't want to just stay up all night trying to distract yourself, watching YouTube videos, reading Instagram posts, looking at Facebook or anything like that. I've talked about what you can do before bed in a previous video. I'm not going to go into that right now, but that's just one of the symptoms that I deal with, is basically just trouble getting to bed at night. Probably has something to do with the fact that I have a tough time getting my day started when I do wake up as well. They're probably linked pretty closely. The next one's a little bit difficult to talk about. I know that other people deal with this as well, so I'm just gonna put it out there and talk about it openly. but my entire life I've dealt with having an extremely addictive personality. My addictive personality has led me to drinking and partying, even smoking cigarettes, but it's also in terms of behaviors. And so things that I've become addicted to, I've found, like maybe spending time at work, then you end up neglecting your family or friends or loved ones. Or maybe you spend too much time watching YouTube videos or watching Netflix and you're not connecting with real humans, or on your computer, whatever it is. An addictive personality doesn't always come down to substance abuse, but it can. You know, when you're dealing with not being happy a lot of the time or being anxious a lot of the time, it gets very addictive when you find things that you can get lost in. Kind of just dilute your reality, I suppose. Basically, having an addictive personality is something that you need to keep an eye on, especially if you're anything like me, because what seems like a really good thing, what seems like something that can make you really happy, can become very addictive for you, and then it becomes a pretty big negative aspect of your life as well. That's one thing that I've really felt like I've dealt with a lot in the past, is having like a negative addiction, or having just an addictive personality. And it's not always a bad thing. You don't have to feel bad if you have an addictive personality. Just make sure that you're monitoring it and spending a lot of the time doing things that are important as well. That being said, if you do find something that makes you happy, try and do it often. That's pretty much my best piece of advice in regards to that. Here's a weird symptom that I've dealt with, and it's kind of a funny one. Kind of like the fear of losing something awesome, so you don't start it at all. This is something that I've dealt with in the past in terms of, you know, starting jobs or picking up hobbies and things like that. But the weirdest way I've ever seen it manifest itself is one time I was hanging out by myself, and I was kind of in an anxious state. I was feeling a little bit panicked. Music helps out a lot. So listening to my favorite songs, or listening to some of my favorite artists, or even just exploring music and listening to new things I haven't listened to in the past, I find music really helps calm me down. And I was thinking about, oh, I can just turn my speaker on and then play some music and I'll calm down. But the reason I didn't do it is because I thought to myself, well, what's gonna happen when the speaker dies? I'm gonna be so disappointed and not really know what to do. Like, my music's just gonna end. And it seems so trivial and something so ridiculous to be anxious about. But I didn't even turn on my speaker that day and listen to music because of the fear that I would lose the music in the future. And that's probably the weirdest way I've ever seen this fear manifest itself, but it translates a lot into the other things that we do in our day-to-day lives, right? So how many opportunities of awesome things do we miss out on, or have I missed out on, because I was just scared of losing them again in the future? It doesn't really make sense, but it's something I've dealt with, so I wanted to talk about it today. Another thing is I didn't really want to share like a bunch of certain aspects of my life just because I was scared of being judged. And that's kind of the point of this video right now, is I just wanted to talk about some of the weird things that I deal with because of, you know, depression or anxiety, without the fear of being judged, because I know a lot of other people deal with this as well. Don't worry about being judged. Just talk about the things you need to talk about. You'll attract the right energy, essentially. And if people do judge you, or people do judge me for this, then it's probably some sort of judgment on their own character that they don't really even know about yet. And that's just kind of what I'm telling myself to give myself the confidence to film this in the first place. So there you have it. Another weird thing that I find myself fearful of or anxious of is losing control of a situation, or not being in control of a situation. Basically, I've pretty much never been on a roller coaster because of this. And another way that I found this is getting on an airplane was really tough for me because I have absolutely no control of the outcome. I'm pretty much just sitting there and hoping that everything goes smoothly. Pilots know how to land planes better than I do, so we'll give them control of that situation, obviously. But it's manifested itself in other ways as well, because I found that sometimes I don't want to be a passenger in a vehicle. I'd much rather drive places, so it's kind of weird that way. Even jumping on an airplane for the first time was actually the first time I ever took any sort of medication in regards to anxiety. It was a really young age, and we were taking a family trip. I think it was to Florida, but I just didn't want to get on a plane, and I couldn't really explain why. And my doctor was pretty much just telling me and my mom, hey, have him take these pills when he's about to get on the plane. And essentially I just napped through every single flight. I'm able to fly now. I don't take medication when I fly now. I do get anxious for sure, but it's something that I'm working on. I haven't really flown alone, so that's the other thing that's kind of nice. Again, probably due to the fact that I don't like having a lot of alone time. Fear of losing control has actually manifested itself in other ways. Personally, I've slowed down a lot on my drinking. I don't really drink very often. Part of it is because I don't like losing control of myself or not having the memory of my actions to be able to reflect upon. But part of it as well is not being able to drive away safely if I do feel anxious or I do feel uncomfortable in a situation. My fear of losing control has kind of made me just realize if I'm always sober and I'm always able to drive, then if I feel anxious in a situation, or I feel like I've lost control in a situation, then I can just up and leave. I'm trying my best to just ramble these off and talk about these things that I deal with, because hopefully it'll make you feel more comfortable talking about the things that you deal with, or maybe you deal with these things as well and you'll have amazingly helpful tips that will save my life completely and make me a happy person. But the last couple things I can kind of think about just off the top of my head are being overwhelmed by loud noises. So I don't really like going into nightclubs, and if my buddies have the music way too loud in a car, that kind of makes me uncomfortable. I like being able to have a conversation and express my feelings if I feel uncomfortable, but also be able to hear the things around me so I know I'm in a good environment, a safe environment, and I kind of just know what's going on. So I don't know if I feel like that's maybe an anxious thing. I don't like having a lot of loud noises around me or having a lot of distractions, I guess, especially if I'm trying to focus. Mainly if I'm trying to focus. I don't know if you guys have ever done this. Another weird thing that I do, and it's really related to this, when I'm driving up to a place trying to look for an address or trying to look for some details about the place, basically when I'm trying to park my car, I turn my music down so that I can see better. So I don't know if that's tied to anxiety or what's going on there, but I've kind of always attributed it to the same thing, is I kind of get overwhelmed by noises sometimes. So all of these things, they're not really too triggering. I don't really think this video needs a trigger warning at all. Oh shoot, that made me think of the last one. This one actually might need a trigger warning. So this is a weird thing that I've always kind of dealt with, and I don't know if anyone else deals with these thoughts. I'm pretty sure they do. It doesn't feel like it's too uncommon, but wondering what other people's lives would be like without me in it. And that's not saying like I have suicidal thoughts or anything like that any longer. I thankfully don't really deal with that too much in the present. I used to quite a bit when I was a little kid, which I've talked about before, but though sometimes I do feel like a burden on other people, it's just the curiosity of what other people's lives would be like if I were just gone. And that's like a weird thought that I deal with, and it's kind of embarrassing to talk about once again. And it's a weird concept to think about. Again, I'm not suicidal, so I'm not trying to look for any pity or anything like that. And I'm pretty certain this is something that's pretty closely tied to mental illness or mental health, whether it be depression or anxiety, is just wondering what the world would look like without me in it. It's just a weird thought that I get a lot of the time. If you get it as well, you're not alone. If you don't get it, then you could just think about how weird I am, I guess. I don't know. So I hope that sharing these things has shined a light on what sorts of weird symptoms some people get with mental illnesses, or if you feel like this as well, then maybe you just don't really feel as alone anymore. If you've maybe felt these things as well, then maybe share in the comment section what helped you out with dealing with these things. But I just wanted to share this video to just let people know that you're not alone with whatever you deal with. Even if it feels really weird, even if it feels like you're not normal, or maybe other people don't feel this way as well, it's normal to not feel okay. It's normal to not feel normal. I just wanted to kind of end the video off with just saying that, pretty much. And I already did. So that's it. Thanks for watching.